Okay, Bismillah wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulullah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in amma ba'd. So inshallah we are going to be doing a couple of lessons on the different sects in Islam. Okay, and since you've studied, I think, the history of the four Khalifas and you have an idea about the Khawaarij, and they're probably the first sect. But we will look at the different sects and the concept of why there are sects in Islam as well. Okay, and inshallah, probably not all as like in sequence. Not one lesson after the other, but we will cover most of them, inshallah. Okay, the question is, why are there sects? It's not desirable to have sects, but it will always occur. As Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us, he said this ummah is going to divide into 373 sects. Okay. So he said افترقت اليهود عن عوف بن مالك قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم افترقت اليهود على 71 فرقة وواحدة في الجنة و70 في النار وافترقت النصارى على 72 فرقة ف71 في النار وواحدة في الجنة والذي نفس محمد بيده لتفترقن أمتي على 73 فرقة فواحدة في الجنة و72 في النار قيل يا رسول الله من هم قال الجماعة. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said in this hadith that the Jews divided into 71 sects. One of them will go to Jannah, which is obviously the ones that were following Musa alayhi salam. They will go to Jannah. And the Christians divided into 72 sects. Okay, they divided into 22 sects, and only one will go to Jannah, who are the followers of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Sorry, the followers of Isa alayhi salam. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, I swear by the one whose hand is the soul of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, my nation will split into 73 sects, one of which will be in paradise and the 72 in hell. It was said to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who are they? And he said the main body. He also said al-jama'ah, okay, the congregation. Or in another hadith he says, what I am upon and my companions. Okay, so that's why the Muslims that are following Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam are called Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Okay, Ahlul Sunnah, which is the people who follow the Sunnah, wal Jama'ah. Okay, so basically the question is, there's some sheikhs who wrote books about this. There's one sheikh who wrote a book called Al-Milal wal-Nihal, and he's mentioned most of them. And also another sheikh wrote a book about Talbis Iblis, and he talks about different sects as well. So there's different sects like the Khawaarij, the Mu'tazila, the Murji'ah, the Shia, okay, and many others. The question is, why are they gonna basically go to all of them hellfire? And if they go to hellfire, are they gonna be in hellfire forever? So some groups became kafir, they go to hellfire forever. Some they just they left the right path, but they will come out from hellfire and they will go to Jannah. Okay, and then every single person on an individual basis will be judged by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but as a group, okay, they would have a ruling. So the first group are the Khawaarij. Who are the Khawaarij? The Kharijites or the Khawaarij, it comes from the word Kharaja. Okay, so we learned about the history of Ali ibn Abi Talib. So they're the ones who rebelled against Ali ibn Abi Talib, and when Ali ibn Abi Talib in the Battle of Siffin, we learned about, there was an arbitration. The famous story took place. Remember how Abu Musa al-Ash'ari and Muawiyah, and like basically Muawiyah's camp they put the Quran up and they said, we want to have an arbitration, okay, to judge between us, people to judge between us. So the followers of Ali, they said, La hukma illallah, there's no ruling or no judge except Allah, and they left Ali and they made their own group. So when they left, they were called Khawaarij, and they made their own camp. And we learn how Ali ibn Abi Talib, after he leaves Muawiyah, he goes and fights them. Okay? So the Prophet ﷺ said, like, from our ummah, there will be, he told us about the Khawarij, and that they would come, and they will be the offsprings of a man called Dhul Khuwaysirah. Okay? He was a man who came to Muhammad ﷺ while Muhammad ﷺ was giving some money to people, and then he said, "Oh Muhammad, you are not just." And he said to Muhammad, "Ittaqillah." And Muhammad ﷺ said to him, "If I'm not just, then who could be just? If Allah trusts me with the revelation, who else do you expect to be just?" And some of the narrations it mentions that he was pulling Muhammad ﷺ's shirt, his upper garment. Okay? And Khalid bin Walid said, "Ya Rasulullah, shall I strike this guy's neck and kill him?" Muhammad ﷺ said, "No, I don't want. I've been told to judge people on what I see, basically." So Khalid bin Walid was saying he's a munafiq. But anyway, Muhammad ﷺ said, they will be coming from this guy's offsprings, the Khawarij. Also, Muhammad ﷺ said, which is hadith narrated by Abu Sa'id al-Khudri. Can you guys still hear me? Are you with me?
Yes, Malik.
Okay. Muhammad ﷺ said, يخرج في هذه الأمة قوم تحقرون صلاتكم مع صلاتهم فيقرؤون القرآن لا يجاوز حلوقهم أو حناجرهم يمرقون من الدين مروق السهم من الرمية. Muhammad ﷺ said, there will come a nation, there will rise a nation, and those people, when you look at their salah and you compare your salah to theirs, like they would outperform you in salah. When it comes to reading the Quran, they will be reading Quran, eloquently. They will outdo you in that as well. But the Quran won't go past their throats, which means it doesn't get to their hearts. And they would leave the religion just like an arrow goes through the prey. So basically, it means they don't act like Muslims when you look at what they're doing. A good example would be of a modern group of the Khawaarij. You probably know who they are. ISIS was a typical example, because you would see them, they fit this category of the characteristics of the Khawarij. Also Shabab, who are in Somalia, and other groups. Okay. This was okay. So also Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us about their characteristics. He said, "Yatihu qawmun qibala al-mashriqi muhallaqatun ru'usahum," and he said they have bald heads and they will come from the east. They will emerge from the east. So based on where he was in Medina, so the east of Medina, he said they will come from there. Okay. And that's where they emerge from. It's like from Iraq and those sides. Okay, so it's like a trait. You know how people have bald heads, completely bald, not because they're losing their hair or anything like that, but just as a sign. They used to have this sign. So it's not good for a person to have these signs or to copy them. Also, the Prophet ﷺ said, يقتلون أهل الإسلام ويدعون أهل الأوثان لئن أنا أدركتهم قتلتهم قتل عاد. Prophet ﷺ said, they kill the Muslims and they leave the worshippers of idols. So they're busy with killing the Muslims. He said, if I was to live till their time, I would kill them like Ad were killed, the people of Ad. So this is a good example of the Shabab of the Khawarij are Shabab. They blow up, they commit these atrocities, and they have these suicide bombers killing people in the middle of basically the city, and they're just attacking the Muslims in their own lands. Okay, so they're not even fighting an enemy. They're just fighting themselves. The Prophet ﷺ also said they're kilabu ahli nar. In a narration, it says that they're the dogs of hellfire. So they're going to hellfire. Okay, what do they believe? What got them there? Are you guys with me?
Yeah.
Yes, Malan.
Okay. One is their interpretation of the Quran. So they interpret the Quran without knowledge. And there's no explicit text like indicating they're wrong. There's nothing to indicate their interpretations of the Quran. For example, they believe that whoever commits a major sin will be in hellfire forever. Okay, one of the evidences is they said that Iblis committed a major sin. He didn't do sujood for Adam, and that made him a kafir. So he left. They're saying making sujood for Adam was for him to leave, that was a major sin, and he became a kafir because he was saying, he was saying, "Oh Allah, with your permission or with your might, izzatika, I would misguide them." So they were saying he believed in Allah, but he did kufr. He did a major sin that made him a kafir. So they believe anybody that does a major sin, he becomes a kafir. If you drink alcohol, you become a kafir. If you commit zina, fornicate, you become a kafir. If you kill someone, if like a murderer, you become a kafir. We don't believe that. Although the Quran says whoever kills someone, he will be in hellfire forever. But that is interpreted as not forever, but he will one day come out if he was a Muslim, because there's other texts that show that if a person commits a murder and is a Muslim, he will face penalties, but he will come out from hellfire. Okay, they believe it's permissible to kill children, women of the enemy or from the Muslims. That's why you find that they blow up places where it's basically the middle of the city. They just want the men and the enemy. They don't care if they kill the women or the children. So this is their belief. They believe, so they've made the blood of Muslims halal. They killed Sahabas. They even killed his Abdullah ibn Khabab ibn Arit. Yeah, they killed his one of the companions' son as well. And they've killed many people. They intimidate, they scare the Muslims. That's what the Khawaarij are about. They just scare the Muslims. People are scared because, these people, they even kill themselves in the process. So they show no mercy to the Muslims. Also, they reject like the stoning of the one who commits zina. Okay? So the one who commits zina and who's already been married, they didn't see it in the Quran, although it's in the Hadith. They didn't accept. They don't apply that ruling. Also, anybody who's accuses someone of committing zina and he doesn't have the 4 witnesses, he will be lashed. They don't apply that rule as well, because they're just interpreting the Quran, the Hadith, how they want. Okay, so that's the group. That's the first group we're going to cover, which is the Khawaarij, and you see the modern examples of the Khawaarij today. There are other groups that we're going to cover that got misled, which was groups who got influenced by philosophy, okay? Philosophy, and other groups who just interpret things in the wrong way. So there's when the fighting happened between the Sahaba, these groups were coming about. The first group, they called Ali and Muawiyah kafir. So this is the Khawarij. They said these guys are kafir. Okay, so they made their own group. There's others who went to the other extreme. We're going to learn about them. And they said, if you commit a major sin, it doesn't matter. Your iman is in your heart. They're called the Murja. We're going to learn about them. And then there's a third group who came up with some philosophical ideas. Okay, that got them misled. They said that person, he's between Jannah and Nar. He's not a Muslim, but we're going to cover those anyway, till we get to the modern time. Till we got to the modern time. And at the end of the day, the believers are the ones who follow Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and follow the Sunnah. So that's why we're called Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Okay? Ahl Sunnah, the people who follow the Sunnah, and we're the main body of the Muslims. Allah Alam. Any questions on this presentation? Any questions?
Yeah, Ma'alin, I have a question, Ma'alin.
Okay, go ahead.
You see right now how you said ISIS, Al-Shabaab, and all those people that they are the Khawaarij.
Sah.
Do they acknowledge it themselves? So do they admit it, or do they deny it and say that they're the main body?
Yeah, they